Hello. Today we are excited to demonstrate WCI's MT2 tool. MT2 is an upgraded version of our original mapping tool, which has been used by groups around the world for over a decade now. It is a terminology agnostic mapping platform that supports both simple and complex maps, scalable bulk operations, and collaborative review processes, and introduces a more flexible workflow model. The tool is integrated with Snowstorm as its terminology server, but is designed to support alternate backend data storage solutions as required by any potential customers. This is meant to be an overview of the tool and its core functionality, but in the interest of time is not going to touch on every aspect of the tool. If there's anything that you'd like more information about after watching this video, please reach out to us and we'd be happy to schedule a live demo for you and your team. The library page is where people usually start. This shows a table of all of the different maps that your mapping team is working with. So in this particular case, this is set up for our team in Norway. And so their two maps are SNOMED to the Norwegian version of ICPC2 and SNOMED to the Norwegian version of ICD-10. And ICD-10 is the one that we're going to be focusing on during this demo. So let's double click to get into this map. We are currently looking at a published version of the map. So there is a drop down here where you can see the current or previous published versions. In this published state, you cannot make any changes to the map, but you can look at the different map entries. So here we have a table view of all of the maps, 181,273 to be precise. So this is showing that that this tool is able to work at maps at a fairly robust scale. Our table view has a default setting which has source information, both code and name, target terminology information, again, code and name, and metadata associated with the maps based on the project. So for this project, they have relationships, rules, and advices, as well as when the last time this map was modified. You may not always want all of this information visible. So if you go to the settings, you can, let's say all you want is a source and target information. So you can get rid of the other columns so you can see these much more easily. The columns are also adjustable, so you can show less real estate for the target and much more for the names themselves. Even in this kind of pared down version of the table, you still can't always see all of the information. And so for that, we have the record view. So instead of looking at things in kind of like an Excel table format where each column has to be squished, this expands the view so you can see all of the information in one chunk. So here we have the source information, target information, as well as the relationship and advice. But for most of the demo, we're going to be looking at the table view. Let's go ahead and bring back the other columns. And let's make an edit. So here we are in the published version. In order to start a new editing cycle, you'll hit edit. This is an optional message that you can add to your audit trail, starting editing cycle for January 2026. And let's change this one. So in order to edit a map, you select it and then go to Actions, Edit Selected Mapping. So this is the editing screen. In the top left, you have source information, the top right, target information, and then down below, you have the rest of the information for the map. You could go through and add advices, change the rule, change the relationship, but for this demo, in order to, again, show that you can do both simple and complex maps, simple being one-to-one maps, one source concept to one target, complex being multiple targets, we're going to add a second map group. So we're going to add the map group and add the new target. And the current target is A41.9, unspecified sepsis. So let's search for other concepts in the A41 range. So here we have in the target code section, we have a type ahead drop down. So here we have A41. So let's say that we also want a second group for A41.2. We're going to set that as a target. That populates down below. Let's add a map advice saying that this is mapped following WHO guidance. Save it. We can get a quick overview of the map. Everything looks good. And now we can save the mapping. This talks directly to the backend server. Again, in this case, it's a snowstorm, but it could be a database. It could be another terminology server. And once it's done, it gives a message back. Yes, the mapping has been saved. And if we follow the breadcrumb back to the mappings page, we can see that this map has the international A41.9, but now has an additional Norwegian map with the first map group being A41.9 and the second map group being A41.2. So that's making a change to a map kind of on a one-by-one basis. But one of the exciting things that we've introduced for MT2 is doing batch editing. So let's say, for example, that you get guidance from your target terminology saying, hey, R07.4 is no longer a valid target. And anything that was R07.4, we now need to change to something else. So we could go through and find the R07.4s and change them one by one. But instead, we could search for all of the maps that have R07.4 as their target. And we can change all of them simultaneously. So let's grab the first 5. Or we could just select all of them. And we're going to batch edit all of these at the same time. So that brings up our batch editing page. So here it looks very similar to the mappings page, but now we can make changes to each of them at the same time. We could add advices, we could change the relationships and the rules, but in this case, we're going to go through and update the targets. So instead of R07.4, we're going to do R07.2. So let's quickly grab the target and just go down and make all the changes here. So rather than having to open up each individual map, find the target, make the change, we can grab all of the things that we want to change and make these changes in a very quick method. This also helps to ensure that you're not missing anything. So rather than trying to hunt down each individual map one by one, you can go through and make all the changes in one go to make sure you're not overlooking anything. So once we make all of our changes, we can again save the mappings. This one more time talks to the backend terminology server, requests all the changes to be made, does any validations that the server has in place, and then once the maps have successfully gone through, the terminology server sends a message back to the mapping tool saying, yep, these are all saved and good to go, and then the tool progresses. And here we see that the mappings have been saved. So again, we're going to go back on the breadcrumb to the mapping page, and it will have saved the search that we performed previously, and we'll pull those maps back up to see what the changes have been. And here we go. And here we see that all of these maps have the original international map to R07.4 and a Norwegian version to R07.2. So let's say the editing cycle is done. We've made all of our changes, and now we want to publish and export the map. Here we're going to finish editing. And one of the updates that we've made to the tool is that you can do an arbitrary number of editing and review cycles. If you have a very large mapping team that wants to go through multiple rounds of editing, you can go through any number of editing that you want. And again, any number of review cycles that you want. If you have a small team of just a few or even maybe just one mapper, you can also just skip straight past the editing and review cycles and go straight to publication. We're going to request publication now. This locks the map, so no more changes can be made. And now the terminology server can do the changes that it makes to publish the maps, get things in a ready to go situation, and that's going to happen in the background. And once it's done, we can refresh the page. And now we see that we have a new published version in addition to the previous ones, and the maps are ready to go. We can head back to the library, see that it is indeed published, and head in. And finally, let's get the maps out. So there are two built-in exports, but again, this is extensible. One is downloading the entire map, where you can choose whether you want a snapshot or a delta, an RF2, a list of concept IDs, whether or not you want metadata, and hit download. This sends the request back to the terminology server. It processes the information in the background, and then once it is finished, will create that package and send it to the mapping tool. And here, it automatically sends it for download. And here we can see the map file in RF2 format with all of the map information available. Again, this is just an overview of the main functionality for the tool. If this has perked your interest and you're interested in seeing more, again, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'd love to have a conversation with you and your team about your particular needs. Thank you very much.